Well, Saturday night's main event, I think, this past week was a resounding success. Any way you look at it, I saw someone post this.
I'm being a smart ass.
It may have been King Shivas. I saw someone post this where they said, I can't believe they got, whatever it was, like 15,000 people into the Nassau Coliseum. I used to go sit ringside at those shows when there was no one there, and it was loaded with stars. So it's pretty incredible.
Well, that's the thing also. Remember, I've talked about this. The Nassau Coliseum was noteworthy in the industry for having a hard crowd if there was people there to begin with. And, I mean, whether it was the bunkhouse stampede that Crockett tried to do in '88 or at WWF shows in the '90s, you know, whatever would have them setting the seats on fire in other places, they'd give you a polite nod and a wink in the Nassau Coliseum. And these people were fucking lit up to see the nostalgia factor and the network TV, the return of an old institution, whatever. They're your people up there. The New York Yankees, son of a bitches. Well, you explain them.
Explain the people on Long Island?
Yeah.
They expect things to be good, and very often it felt like MSG would get the really good shit, and Nassau Coliseum would get just kind of the other show.
So Nassau Coliseum people felt like Winston-Salem people.
The Garden, anyone can get to. You could take a train right to it. If you live in New York City itself, it's pretty easy to get to. Nassau Coliseum, you know, you're driving there. No one's taking the bus. I mean, I'm sure there's a few people, but no one's taking the fucking bus or the train to East Meadow or whatever, however that would work.
However it would work.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, you're getting a driving crowd from Long Island. And in a lot of ways, that's the barometer of how hot things are or aren't, is how many people you can get. Because Long Island is a hotbed of wrestling fandom. But a lot of those wrestling fans...
Well, it's also rotten traffic.
But a lot of those wrestling fans are willing to stay home. That's the point.
Yeah.
You got to give them something where they're going to want to be a part of it. And they did it here. Boy, did they do it here.
Well, can I go on an editorial rant here before we talk about the actual content of the program for Saturday night's main event, which was on December 14th on NBC? Did we identify that? Two things. Number one, in the 80s, it was on at 11:30 p.m. in the Saturday Night Live time slot and did better numbers than Saturday Night Live. In the 80s at 11:30 on Saturday night, they had between 15 and 17 million people. And remember they did the one in primetime, the Hogan and Andre rematch, and that match peaked at 32 million viewers.
That's the most watched match in history, isn't it?
Yeah, because the NBC was a game changer. They throw that word around a lot lately, but it was a game changer for WWE because even the first Clash of Champions on TBS with the Flair versus Sting match only got to 9 million because at that point, the difference in availability between NBC and TBS was like 2 or 3 to 1, right?
Right, but just to clarify what you're saying, at that point, that match, that 9 million, was the most watched match in the history of cable television, correct?
Yes, but you couldn't compete with network television, even Saturday night, late night in those days. So the point is, the old Saturday night's main events did 15, 16, 17, 18 million people. When they were on at 8 o'clock, they did 32 million people. And this one, I bet you they're going to be turning cartwheels. And what do you think is it? Because it's just happened over the weekend. There's no numbers yet. But you think they're going to be pissed themselves happy with 2.5 million or 3 million? Or what's the standard these days for NBC?
I would almost wonder if it's a whole lot less than that. I mean, would they be thrilled at 1.5? I'm not sure. I mean, again, it's primetime NBC Saturday.
Well, but goddamn, they were doing better on Fox on Friday than 1.5.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be very interesting. They did a really good job of hyping it up. And in a lot of ways, they did a great job of making it so that if you're someone who was checking out the product because it was on, or you remember the old Saturday night's main event, they kind of made it so that it felt right. They probably could have leaned into that a little bit more with a few things to really nail that. I think they did a good job. I mean, the reality of where people are, and there were fewer options. There were still plenty of people who didn't have cable
Right.
in 1986. Plus, you had Lorne Michaels returning to SNL after the Ebersol years. And, people look back on a lot of that stuff fondly, and there's good stuff. But the first year was fucking awful. And then after that, a lot of these guys like Dana Carvey and Phil Hartman kind of started getting their stuff over, but it took a little while. And that's when WWE was outperforming Saturday Night Live.
Well, and to be honest, also, there in a lot of cases there was a different audience. That Vince is the one who brought the Saturday Night Live audience and the wrestling audience together, because in Dallas, world-class wrestling on KTVT from Fort Worth, the Monday night show that was taped and broadcast following Saturday, was also doing better in the first half hour. Or no, I tell a lie. It was doing better than all of Saturday Night Live. Central Time, it was on 10 to midnight, but that was a completely different audience watching wrestling in Texas and watching Saturday Night Live at that point in time. Vince is the one that got them together because of that fucking deal. But nevertheless, let me editorialize about one more thing. The retro look, and they did a good job, as you mentioned, and, we'll talk about the theme music and all that stuff, but you love it. I like the look of it, but I didn't like experiencing it. But the owl way, they brought back the goddamn... The old way, the bicycle racks, and it's 6 feet wide, and the people on either side all the way down can reach out and touch somebody.
It makes the guys look like bigger stars. It really does. And between that, I love the aisle like that. I think that's the way it should be. And by the way, it cuts down on your costs. If you don't have to lug around that big fucking stage. If all you need is that, and you're going to have people, just by being fans, giving you the appearance you want, where everyone looks like a star with people reaching for them, they should do that. I also like the red, white, and blue ring ropes.
Well, but hold, before we talk about the color scheme, let me just remind you of this, though. Would you say that right now, probably in all of the history of professional wrestling, right now, there is the least chance that any of the talent, any of the heels are going to be attacked by fans who are mad at what they have done in the context of the wrestling business, in their match or their promo or what they did last show or whatever? Has there ever been any time where there's been less chance? There's always a random nut, John Lennon, right? There's always some guy tackled Bret Hart at the Hall of Fame. But on a realistic level, has there been any less chance of heels being punched, assaulted, stabbed, cut, or otherwise maligned by a fan than any time in history right now?
No. And again, it's easy for me as the fan to say I love that look. Now, also, if you notice, there were two security guards behind everyone. It wasn't like they were next to them. Sometimes you would see wrestlers come out at the Garden. I know who the head of security was. He was the head of security at Long Beach High School, Teddy Suba. And they would come out there. They wanted to swarm the wrestlers and walk them into the ring. You didn't have that, probably because they didn't want the visual of it. But you'd have to do that.
You would have to do that. And even then, sometimes it didn't work. And that's the thing. The business has evolved to where now none of the fans are going to fuck with any of these guys. They don't believe anything. The heels don't have any legitimate heat. The booing while you're smiling about booing is not heat. And they've got 15-foot wide aisleways and these goddamn custom-built barricades and everything. You can't get within binocular distance of these motherfuckers in any setup today. But in the territory days when we stood a legitimate chance of getting punched or kicked or stabbed or fucking shit flung in our eyes or whatever, that's what the goddamn aisleways looked like. And it didn't make any sense, except the promoters wanted to sell as many tickets as they possibly could, and the most expensive ones were on the floor where you had to walk through. So sometimes they would make a change in a town because you'd had lawsuits or police trouble, or sometimes the building would make you. That New Orleans police barricade you saw at the downtown auditorium in New Orleans was instigated by the police because they were sick of the fucking issues. But we used to take a fucking pummeling just to get to the ring. And now nobody wants to fucking hit anybody, and they've got a bobsled run. It drives me out of my mind.
But that's the other thing. If they reintroduce barricades, maybe not as tight as they were here, maybe a little bit in between somewhere, there is going to be some crazy fan that feels encouraged to grab one of the girls by the hair or something. You would think, because once you start making it a little looser, a little easier to get them, there are still crazy fans. There may be crazier fans today, but just more like in the perverted sense, not in the dangerous sense.
They're crazier. They're just not as pissed off.
Right. They don't get laid. Imagine the crazy people back then who didn't get laid. But yeah, what the hell are we talking about? The way to the ring, yes.
The irony of, and the retro, so that kids, young people out there, that's what it looked like if they had those side railings. Sometimes we were in buildings where you just had the fucking cops, however many of them there was, to get on either side of you. And hope that there was enough, because there was 3 of us, and I was always in the middle, but you would hope. But that's what you would get beat up more on the way to and from the ring than you would actually performing the match. So nevertheless,
but yeah, I mean, I saw Piper, I think there's probably footage of Piper in that very same building walking to the back with security on both sides of him while people are throwing shit at him and people are trying to get to him. I mean, it's a different animal.
Oh, Cincinnati Gardens didn't have, I saw this in person. They didn't have any railings. They had the cops walk you down the fucking crooked aisle in ringside, right? On facing a corner post. And this guy, on the way to the match, this guy took a swing at Piper, and Piper dropped him and got on him. And I've never seen punches thrown so quick. I was looking down the aisleway. And all you saw was his hand or his elbow go up in the air and his fist come down about 5 times in 2 seconds. And then he got up and walked to the ring, and the fucking cops tried to pick this guy up that had jumped him, and they quit trying to pick him up and just drug him because he was twitching. But it was always fun.
What'd you think of the ring ropes?
Well, again, yeah, they still did the fancy railing around the ring, the barricade there with the padding and everything, but they did the old time color scheme. The referees had the blue shirts with the bow ties on like the 80s, and they brought the graphics back, and
it looks right.
The obsession for the theme say, "You're my obsession." And they mixed it. They did an open where they mixed the retro clips of the old show on a TV screen. Well, it's kind of corny. But then they went into the new footage, which looks so much better because it's, 40 years newer and it's high def. And then they did the old style pyro also. They did a professional job of making it look like it did in the old days, while at the same time not making it look as cheap as it may have looked in the old days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, although I actually thought it was a missed opportunity to begin the show with the promos, the style they used to do it, especially in the later half of the run of Saturday Night's Main Event, where you kind of had like fast-paced music going on, and everyone stood in front of their logo and had like 30 seconds to tell you why they were going to kick the shit out of the Brainbusters or whatever it was. That was kind of the intro. I thought they should have done that. I thought it really would have worked, too, especially considering, you had Sammy, you had Drew, you had Cody, you had Owens. Would have been a good introduction.
Well, but I think, because from what they did here, and I jotted down a note to remind myself to look for this, and they did, it was the Vince approach that he always used, which this wasn't bad. This was when he, was reasonably only partially insane. If he went to a new network or even on a new night or a new program or something where you could construe that you may pick up new viewers, he would do the show for the fans, but he would gear it more in terms of in terms of the announcing, in terms of the packages, he's appealing to a new audience. There's another level of explanation in the announcing. There's in the packages, anything is geared to making sure that you don't leave anybody behind that doesn't know who these people are or why they're mad. Which again, when old Joe Tessitore, I don't think his voiceover opens have the urgency of Jim Ross's voice, but he's doing a great job of explaining things. And when you would see somebody walk in, here's Joe. He just won the title from Tom by fucking him with a red hot poker. It wasn't like Sockface does over in AEW where it's just a rapid fire gibberish delivery of Japanese names and moves that you've never heard of in tournaments and indie promotions. It's basic shit. This guy fucked this guy out of this because of this reason. And this guy wants to get even with this guy because he did this. That's what you saw, because they're wanting to pick up and appeal to a new audience Saturday night, NBC television, 8 o'clock, that might not normally be watching, and they want them to understand what's going on, which makes so much fucking sense. I can't believe I'm having to explain it.
Speaking of Joe Tessitore, did you see his introduction with Jesse Ventura? Where he mentioned he was wearing his red bow tie in honor of Mean Gene Okerlund because Mean Gene wore one. Brian Solomon tweeted it out. That wasn't Mean Gene Okerlund that Jesse Ventura used to stand next to at Saturday night's main event. It was someone else. Can't quite place the name.
It's so many names running through my head right now.
Something Irish, I think. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple people not mentioned. A lot of people thought it was disrespectful, if whatever you think of this, that there wasn't anything about Hogan. But specifically, obviously, no mention or reference to Vince McMahon at all. Even the classic clips they showed, it was with Jesse's voice.
Yeah, well, and I didn't expect any reference to Vince, and they shouldn't have. I didn't notice that they didn't have any reference to Hogan. You could make a case either way. It could be called for, it could not be called for. But there was other things going on this program. But Jesse, since you mentioned it, besides the announcers telling the basic story, everybody has a reason, everybody has a goal, but then Joe introduces Jesse, and people loved seeing him again. He comes back, he hobbled. How old is Jesse Ventura?
Oh, we just did this. Hold on.
Because I don't remember. Did we just do it about Jesse?
73.
God damn it. Is that what I got to look forward to in 10 years? Because
no, you were never a Navy SEAL or a bodybuilder or anything.
Well, what about his mind? What about his delivery?
Will you leave him? You are a bully. You are a bully.
No, I'm just saying sometimes that's why people need to retire or come out and wave. And because he hobbled to the podium, where then they have him and Joe Tessitore set up at a podium in the back of the arena with the camera shot shooting the crowd in behind them.
That's the way they used to do it, which looks great.
Which they used to do at the time that he was there. And then they had Michael Cole and his cohort, which we'll get to in a minute, down at ringside to do the actual play-by-play and color of the show. But Jesse kept turning his back to the camera to address the people behind him, and they had no shot.
He was so happy.
Used the hard camera to fucking shoot. It was a rotten shot.
He was the happiest man in pro wrestling on that day. He was so happy. He just wanted to feel the energy of the fans. He kept turning around on the camera.
But goddamn,
and Joe tried to guide him back a couple times.
Yes, he redirected him. Well, let's work this way and let's talk about Cody. And then Jesse made the jokes that didn't get over. He must have insisted on saying his own shit. Nobody wrote that for him. Or if they did, they ought to be fired. But goddamn, I mean, I'm not trying to. He was quick. He invented the heel color
He was the best.
commentator business.
Oh, he's the best ever. When he was on, he was the best.
But would we say the same thing about Babe Ruth if he was trying to hit a home run right now at the age of 126?
Again, being on the mic is a little bit of a different thing. Even some of the best slip.
Yes.
Even some of the best who work regularly slip. Very few didn't. Lance Russell didn't. Everyone else I could think of did.
Well, anyway, so it was brief. It was brief with Jesse, and then he'll be back. But then they pitched to Michael Cole ringside, and they played the music, and they brought Pat McAfee back. And again, this is brilliant because this will be the team on January 6th when they premiere on Netflix, and they're putting them on network TV so that, and live from New York, it's Saturday night's main event. So, again, they set this thing up perfectly, and they're gearing it to a potential new audience, and they're promoting the shit they've got coming up, and they've got a jam-packed crowd in the Nassau Coliseum, and it looks fantastic, and you can see people everywhere. And then here comes Drew McIntyre. And again, as we said earlier in the show, he's one of the top superstars in the business these days. And, again, everybody's over. And he gets in the ring, and then Sammy makes his entrance, and then Sammy jump starts it, and off we go with Sammy and Drew. And again, the formula that Sammy has that works is he fights from underneath, he uses the speed, he'll catch a dive every now and then, and he sells his ass off in that ragdoll body language, and it's perfect because Drew's such a big bully. And the people but there was a huge Sammy Uso chant. And that's where I jotted down that the crowd was the livest ever in the Nassau Coliseum. And this match got over better than any of them, didn't it? Was it just because it's the first one they saw, or were they just, this was a good fucking match and they kept it moving?
I think a mix of both. But being on first and having a hot match in front of a Long Island crowd significantly helps.
Well, and you could tell also that they were at a different level of pacing here than on a long Raw or a SmackDown match. They kept it moving. It looked like one of the old Saturday night's main event matches, or one of the pay-per-view matches back when you actually had to get in there and work your ass off, rather than, we're getting paid the same regardless. So they were just up, and they boom, boom, boom. And they had the chops were stiff, the pace was quick, the work was serious, the crowd was with everything. Again, and I'm sorry, I got to apologize that when we did the question on your show a couple of days ago, what 5 wrestlers would I pick? Did I mention Drew McIntyre? Did we
I don't
gloss
know if you did.
over him?
You may not have. I'm not sure.
Because he's been gone for a couple months, and he had just come back. So regardless, again, he's a guy that has just transformed himself. So boom, and the announcers are telling the stories. And by the time that Sammy turned Drew's finish off the ropes into a power bomb and got a 2 count, the crowd was going crazy. And then Sammy hit the Blue Thunder bomb, 2 count, got a big pop, and this is awesome. And they just had him jumping up and down. And then McIntyre rolled out of the ring. Sammy rolls out to get him. Drew rolls back in. Sammy goes back to fucking try to get him, and McIntyre hits him with a Claymore. Boom! Knocked his head off. 1, 2, 3. And, Drew had to win, but Sammy can lose without it hurting him because of the way, not only the way that it's done, but also because the way that the way he works and his gimmick. They like him and his never-ending underdog quest.
It always works. Sammy can lose to anyone, and Drew is Drew's really good, and now I'm intrigued by where they're going with Drew. Once again, complete recovery from how boring he was at the end of the McMahon booking run.
Good heavens. Was Austin Theory the only one that prospered by Vince in the last...
Lacey Evans.
Well, I forgot about where is she? Talk about disappearing off the face of the earth.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't have an answer for you.
It took me longer to mute myself and open my Sprite Zero than I thought it was going to, so I left you hanging there. Well, but maybe we need to start some kind of campaign, Brian.
Campaign
to find Lacey. Lacey Evans is obviously missing. Maybe she's been abducted. Maybe, could she be in danger? She's in a national park somewhere. Maybe she's stuck in a ravine.
Maybe Turks and Caicos.
Oh, maybe she's one of the kittens that got brought back and adopted. But
you looking for a kitten?
I'm wondering, maybe. I wonder, is there such thing as a real pussy hound? Maybe he found one of those. But I'll tell you, folks, we need to find Lacey. You know what we need to do, Brian? We need to start a campaign of text messaging. Get the word out there on the 5G network that's the largest in the world. We need to get the word out. Everybody, text everybody we got to find Lacey Evans. Send pictures. Paste them on the side of a milk carton.
This is taking a dangerous turn. Everyone, leave her alone. She's heard from enough of you.
No, I'm not saying text her. We don't know where she is. We need to text everybody.
Someone does.
To find her.
We don't know because we haven't cared until this very moment. They can't say that really anyone's been looking for her.
We can't waste any more time. We're still reaching. Just lay around inactive with an ever-developing situation like this. Folks, if you want to have the capability to find Lacey Evans, then you need to be hooked up.
Leave her alone.
Your telephone.
You need to be locked up.
You need to be hooked up with your telephone to the nation's largest 5G network, and we're not asking you to spend a lot of money. To do this, you can help your fellow woman, and at the same time, you don't have to spend a lot of money, because if you go to Mint Mobile, you're going to get unlimited talk and text and high-speed data for $15 a month. So, and let's say that 10 people, and those 10 people each know 10 people. Well, if everybody texts, hey, where the fuck is Lacey Evans? Have you seen this woman? And then everybody texts everybody else. Well, that's a lot of people. It'll just keep multiplying until I can't do the math. And sooner or later, somebody will find her and bring her to safety.
Well, again, I don't know how this has anything to do with Mint Mobile, who is a fine supplier of
you need to
all your mobile needs, from texting to calling to very low price plans. Mint Mobile is there for you. They don't sell gasoline.
Now, it's not all your mobile. They do not sell gasoline nor trip insurance. However, it's reaching the people. You got to be able to reach a lot of people, because with Mint Mobile's unlimited talk and text, it's delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. That means that it's beaming into everybody's home. It's coming into people's homes, whether they're asking for it or not, their signal. Your signal, if you're hooked up with Mint Mobile, you can beam your signal into the homes of everybody in America without them even knowing about it until they pick up the phone. And then you can say, hey, where the fuck is Lacey? So, right at $15 a month, I mean, that's alone right there. That ought to sell you. Then you can find a missing person, and you can call and text everybody you want to for $15 a month. All you got to do is go to mintmobile.com/JCE. It's a 3-month plan, $15 a month for 3 months. That's $45 over 1 quarter, 25% of the year. You're only going to spend $45 to find poor Lacey and call your mother on her birthday. Right there, those two things alone are worth $45, aren't they, Brian?
Leave Lacey or any other person you've seen on TV who has no connection to you alone, and call your mother more often. Let's try that. Same difference with Mint Mobile.
Well, it's completely different, but it's the same.
It's the same difference.
Well, it's different in the same way. MintMobile.com/JCE, $15 a month for the 3-month wireless plan, $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 GB on the unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Well, let's get back to Saturday night.
Yeah, let's get details.
Details on Saturday night. There were 14,186 fans there in the Nassau Coliseum. I thought it held 16,000. I've been wrong all these years.
Well, they redid the building a few years ago because it was such a dump for so many years. So now it's a cleaned up dump.
Well, in that case, you know what? That does happen where if they renovate one of the older buildings, they find that codes or restrictions that have been grandfathered in, if you do a rehab or a remodel, you have to follow current codes. I bet you that if they made it wheelchair accessible and everything else, that they had to take seats out. They did that with the Louisville Gardens when they renovated it in '64 and made it the convention center. It was originally the Armory. And we've seen old pictures now from the 40s and 50s with basketball games and everything where they could get 9,000 people in there for wrestling. But they put a drop ceiling and skyboxes in and reconfigured everything with a stage for concerts and graduations, political conferences, that type of thing. So these things happen. Did the show still happen?
Yeah, I mean, you watched it. We started reviewing it
We
already.
should talk about the show.
We've been talking about it.
Well, we should talk more about it instead of my renovation tips. Tito Santana and Jimmy Hart were at ringside, and Rich Herring. Rich Herring is a heck of a guy. I haven't seen him in ages, but he was one of the saner individuals that I've had a chance to speak to working in that company. But they were at ringside to see the women's title match between Io Sky and Liv Morgan. And at least they gave this one the 1 minute to break treatment.
Hey, let me tell you something. Liv Morgan coming down that small aisle, whipping her hair around, being a heel, that was something to watch. You waited for someone to just grab it. Everyone was so close in her. She was so close to everyone's hands. I enjoyed seeing that. Just, you never get to see the heels that close to fans.
Well, and like you said earlier also, the people, if they'd have had time to realize, hey, we could fucking pull some shenanigans, they probably won't do it again. And maybe, do you think the next Saturday night's main event will be retro? And when is going to be the first time they have an incident?
I kind of think you have to keep all of them this way.
Well, in that case, sooner or later, the people are going to figure out, hey, we're way too fucking close. But anyway, Liv won this one in under 10 minutes, so it didn't, again, get too burdensome. But did you see the slow-mo of the knee lift?
To the nose? Yes.
Yes. I thought you've been telling me, Io Sky is so good. She's such a good worker. She's good. She has good matches.
She's the genius of the sky. The land is the problem.
Well, I don't know. Her surf and turf ended up fucking blister. She knee lifted Liv Morgan right in the face and nose, the facial nosal area, for no reason. Liv was on her knees. She wasn't moving. And Io's guy just grabs her arm and just knee lifted her right in the fucking face. Just careless.
It's one of those classic babyface moves. Let me break your nose.
Well, yeah. See, in the old days, there would have been more discussion about that in the locker room because that was so blatantly unnecessary.
What'd you think of Liv Morgan, considering the fact she broke her nose or whatever that was? It looks like it was a broken nose. And she continued on. No
well,
problem.
yes. I mean, and that's what it's on network television. You got to. I mean, if she'd have broken her leg in half, I wouldn't expect her to hop on one leg like goddamn Zach Gowen. But, well, I'm just saying there's limits to this. But no, fucking potato in the nose, you soldier on. I had to work with Paul E. with a fucking torn cartilage in my knee, so these things happen. but goddamn, it's just like, what the fuck? What could have possessed this girl to just knee lift her right in the fucking face? I don't know what's. Anyway, would you like to move on to the next contest?
Yes.
Well, it was a triple threat match for the world title between Finn Balor, Damian Priest, and Gunther. And it's starting to get embarrassing because this is kind of 2-3 ways in the last, 2 or 3 weeks that they've had that I kind of liked.
And also Gunther's getting over as a babyface.
Well, yes, he's, again, tremendous. And the background they gave on him. Brief factoids that you can understand. Gunther has been a champion for 80% of his time in the WWE. Gunther has been pinned twice in the last 3 years. And, again, they had a quick pace to this, but it wasn't gymnastics. It was just fighting in a back and forth struggle. They weren't, okay, I'll grab your foot and spin you around. You kick the other guy in the head and he'll fall into my arms where I DDT him and round and round. Do-si-do, spin your partner. It wasn't bullshit. And each one of them are doing their stuff. Obviously, Finn is trying to do the quick things that he does so well, and Priest is kick-ass, and Gunther is the ring general. But again, I love Gunther. Finn is a great worker. He's been there a long time, and they used him for so long, and the Judgment Day thing and his whiny voice. Maybe he'll revitalize himself, but he was good. Gunther was great. Priest, again, had a chance to kind of keep up and shine here, and I don't know if it's coming across. And he doesn't need to do flip dives over the top rope. Can we establish that now, talking about Priest? Did you see that one?
I did, and a lot of big guys like to show that they could do some of the stuff that the slighter guys can do.
Well, then they need to do it. When he pushed off, it looked like he pushed off in a bed of quicksand. Folks, for those of you who did not see this, I mean, it was like he's running. Gunther is on the floor, and Priest turns his back and runs all the way to the other side of the ring so he gets a head of steam so he can run all the way across the ring. And when he pushed off to dive over the top, it looked like just a flat tire happened, and he barely, cannonballing over the top rope, barely cleared the top rope and landed in front of Gunther. Gunther bent forward trying to get under him, and all it ended up doing for Gunther was Priest, when he landed in front of Gunther, he kicked Gunther in the back of the head on the way down. And it was like Priest just gave himself a backdrop over the top rope into a flat back bump on the floor. And again, anybody in the business, when I got in the business, if you said, just take a backdrop over the top rope, flat back to the floor, then fuck you, I quit. He did it to himself on purpose. But on a more positive note, it wasn't over choreographed, and they kept a good pace up, and you really couldn't keep up with a play-by-play of it, like so-and-so did this or that, but they went back and forth, and you got a lot of 2 counts, and they nailed it after that. There was not, I make fun of poor old Priest, but he's too big of a guy to be doing shit like that, but they nailed the rest of it, and they got the This Is Awesome chance, and then Gunther ended up powerbombing Priest on the stairs to take him out of the thing, and then drop kicked and powerbombed Finn and pinned him 1, 2, 3, which was a perfect finish because they're saving Priest. Gunther had to go over, and Finn can drop the fall because he's the worker. That's the kind of the rule of thumb that they use. So I liked it. A triple threat match. Are you gonna make mockery of me now, Brian?
No. It was Gunther. He's one of your guys. You give him a pass.
It was, oh, come on now.
No, it was good. It was fine. It was fine. I like Balor. Balor's been doing it for me a whole lot more than Priest has in terms of, he gets the fans into his stuff. And I don't know, there's something, I compared it earlier to Drew McIntyre. There's something with Priest. They made him the world champion. And I don't know, are there any fans clamoring for Damian Priest? Of all the things happening in WWE, I don't know if anyone cares right now without Rhea or Dominic involved.
That's there needs to be something going on there. It needs to come out of him like it came out of Drew. Or maybe he could just be a white meat baby face and they could have all the little kid, the Hulk had the Hulksters and Macho Man had the Macho Maniacs. Maybe Damian Priest could have the little kids in the priesthood.
I mean, that may not be, that probably will not fly.
Think we need to workshop that one?
That one may be a tough sell. I don't know. If Vince was there, you'd have a shot.
They could come in and get communion from him at his knee.
That may cause a problem.
So on NBC, you think?
On NBC and on Netflix, yes. And with society as a whole. So
well, then we move on.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're stuck with this.
No priesthood for Damian Priest. Did you hear about the priest that got collared down the street? All right. Anyway. So then they went back to the podium with Joe Tessitore and Jesse Ventura. And Jesse Ventura turned to the crowd again and fucked their shot up while he was talking to the fans. And they pitched back to the ring, and I'm looking at, and then basically it's not until the main event that we see Jesse again. So he got 2 minutes in the first hour and 45 minutes, and then they brought him out there and set him in between two guys with a breath still left in their body and some type of energy.
They used him right. I've not heard anyone other than you. And I can understand what you're saying. I haven't heard too many complaints about Jesse's performance.
I'm not blistering Jesse. It's Father Time waits for no man. But no, they.
What was Vince thinking? What was Vince thinking at home watching this?
Oh, he was thinking I should be there. I could control him.
There's Joe Tessitore dressed like him, and there's Jesse Ventura returning, celebrating, turning around like 40 years. I'm back.
Well, but besides that, then they had a clip of him from a Saturday Night's Main Event in 1988. So is also Alzheimer's, he can't count.
I think he meant it was 40 years from when he first came into WWE.
No, he said it's 40 years since I've been here. That's what he said. So that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking they used him right. They could have used him a little less than what they.
I hope next time when they bring out the legends, they get Ivan Putski, just so we can hear Ventura call him Ivan Paduski.
Boy, have you seen Ivan Putski in the last 10 years or so?
No.
Well, I have, and I didn't even know it. And
was he a ghost?
No. There was a wrestling store up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, at one of the malls there. Bud Carson was the guy that ran it. He closed it up since then. But there, almost 10 years ago, I was on my way back from a convention or something up in New Jersey and stopped by there and did an autograph thing. And Ivan Putski was there. And, he was so jacked during his career and so muscular. And you didn't notice that he was only 5'6", right? Well, now I don't know how.
I think everyone noticed. I think everyone would have guessed 5'5".
Well, but it wasn't as striking because he was 250 pounds or whatever and all muscle and had the physique, right? Even though he's very, very short. But boy, when he's goddamn 80 years old, what would he have been 10 years? Not even 10 years ago. Would he have been 75? And he weighs about half of what he used to weigh. I didn't know it was him. And they had to tell me. And then I felt bad. I went up and said, "Hello, Mr. Putski." Now, because I'd never met him.
83.
Okay, well, then he was in his mid to late 70s when I saw him. And he's very He's not as muscular as he used to be. Thank goodness for his health. But yeah, if he turned sideways, stuck his tongue out, he'd look like a zipper.
Chico Santana. Well, we didn't get to hear any of his famous insults of all.
Well,
the
Tito was there at ringside. They
I know.
put his camera shot in the main event.
That's right. Greg Valentine. Did you see Greg Valentine when they showed him? He was so happy to be there.
It's the only time I've ever seen him smile.
I've never seen him that happy ever.
I've never seen him happy ever. What the? I mean, he's various stages of morose usually with a resting, uninterested face. But anyway, they had the U.S. title match, but not between the men, between the women, Chelsea Green and Mia Yim on NBC. They went 1 minute to the break, and then Chelsea Green came back and hit some kind of finish or other after Piper did the distraction. It was such an easy crowd. There was a big pop for this even.
No, the fans were into it. They were into the idea of Chelsea Green winning the title, and they got what they wanted. And Michin, not Mia Yim.
I thought Chelsea Green was a heel. Boy, she sure acts like one.
She's a heel, but she's a lovable heel, like the kind of way she's a heel, but she'll walk into a puddle. Like she's a heel, but she'll slip on a banana peel.
A heel that'll slip on a peel.
That's right. I know plenty of heels that have been on a peel.
Has a peel.
But this is a new one.
Well, maybe just because all the people on Long Island are assholes. They like this smart-ass show-off here.
Maybe.
Well, and by the way, it's speaking of stepping in things, if you hear the rain, it's raining outside. Raining cats and dogs, I know, because earlier I stepped in a poodle, and you might hear that. So then Greg Valentine and Coco Ware was at ringside also, just as happy as Greg Valentine was.
So that's interesting, because, I mean, like, you know, Greg Valentine doesn't live in New York. Coco doesn't live in New York. They actually brought these guys in. Like, they sought them out and brought them in for this.
Yes.
Tito's in New Jersey, so that's easy.
Well, but, you know, again, maybe they had them do a sit down and do a video shoot or do a autograph thing or some kind of Legends, you know, round table or, you know, whatever. But if I was any of these guys and they said, well, we want to bring you to Nassau Coliseum for Saturday night's main event. Oh, well, what would you like me to do? We want you to sit in the crowd and we're going to give you it on camera. That's it. I'm going to get on a goddamn airplane. I'm going to fly from wherever to fucking New York. I'm going to stay at a hotel. I'm going to endure that traffic. I'm going to sit in a seat at ringside and you're going to shoot me waving on camera?
Yes, and then we're going to ask you to get up. We're going to get a seat filler and Jimmy Hart's going to take your place.
Then in that case, I say, here, I will send you an 11 by 14 high resolution photo of me. Stick that thing in the fucking chair. I mean, but anyway, but it was nice to see those guys, but I didn't have to work to see those guys. I just had to turn on the TV. They had to take 2 days out of their fucking lives to go sit in a fucking chair. Well, I'm serious.
Well, you're a fucking grub. What are you?
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I'm going to travel 2,000 miles to sit in a chair so you can play a tape of me. They'll remember what I looked like. Why do I need to be there? I mean, it's just anyway. And then Jesse joined Cole and McAfee at ringside, and so McAfee could do the telestrator bit with Jesse, and they played a package on Kevin Owens so the audience potentially could understand the issue that he's in with Cody and why he feels the way he does, and it's a refresher for the regular audience, so it wasn't offensive to either one. And then how do you feel about this since you're the president of the Jesse Ventura?
Oh, you're going to rip on him again?
Well, no, I started to say Jesse Owens, but I guess that's conflating the two. But the Jesse Ventura fan club, you're the head of the chapter.
I think you're a commie.
he was taking Owens's side as the heel as he would have in the old days, but since everybody was so happy to see him back because it's nostalgia now, should he have been a babyface to somewhat degree, or should he have just done straight old-fashioned?
This was the best stuff he did because they played off him well. That was what killed him in WCW. No one knew how to play off him like Vince McMahon or Gorilla Monsoon or anyone in WWF did. They played off him, and he was always good at supporting the heels and pointing out the bullshit in the babyface side, so that even if you're rooted for the babyface, you kind of knew, well, he's not wrong. Well, he's telling the truth. And then he would point out,
that was not popular with the babyfaces, by the way.
Yeah, and then with the heels, he saw the heels side. He presented their point of view, and he did it better than anyone else. He was as shticky as he kind of seems. He was less shticky than everyone else doing it.
He was less shticky.
You believed he was, that guy. He was. I'm a Jesse Ventura mark, and I thought he did really good during the main event here. And if he had all of a sudden started rooting for Cody, that would have been the kiss of death. He had to.
That wouldn't have been right. And anyway, they brought the main event out. Owens made his entrance. Cody made his entrance, and I think they revealed this on social media, and they referred to it, or hinted at it, at least on social media, referred to it without saying what it was on the show the other night. But Cody came out wearing the old Winged Eagle belt, which ran from 88 to 98, the Reggie Parks belt.
Still the best. That's still the best belt they ever had for the world title.
And it's nice to hear Reggie Parks get a plug, too. Bless him, may he rest in peace. But I've had that belt on numerous occasions in my car, taking it from one place to another. I never actually won it in the ring.
Right, that's the belt that Yokozuna had.
Yes. But anyway, then it was time for the WWE title match between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens, and they started. Owens was rolling out and stalling and getting on the bicycle. He did it twice, and Cody then said, fuck it. He rolled out on the floor, went after him, and then did a big dive and started selling his ankle from the Gable ankle lock the other night on Raw. And again, that's brilliant because I don't know that anybody was expecting the title to change hands on this show, right? Even the devoted fans, whatever. Not that you want to see the heel beat Cody in theory and in psychology, but a title change is a big deal. And this is right a page out of Dusty's book. Cody seemed to be the dominant guy from the way that they've been presented. So you give the dominant babyface a fucking weakness that the heel can work on. And oh my gosh. And then the people start thinking, well, is this his out? Are they going to explain that he lost because of this? And you're just creating a little doubt as the match goes on. And as annoying as the fucking fat son of a bitch is, Owens can work when he wants to. And they kept this thing going. This was like a 90s television show match, rather than on the Raw Monday Night Wars, rather than the pace you see today. And they were cooking. And I'm not going to give you the blow by blow, but they did a great job of going back and forth, getting a big move and a 2 count, and then letting it breathe, and then another false finish. And I thought it was a good match overall, and they didn't have to go too long. They didn't ring the bell till like 15 minutes on the air. And then finally, Owens shoved Cody into Little Nate, referee Charles Robinson. Boom, and Charles goes down and rolls out on the floor, and then Owens hits a stunner and has the cover, but there's no referee. And he's got him. There's no referee. And finally, the second referee runs in, starts the count 1, 2, and he kicks. And fucking Owens is hot. Like, God damn it. God damn it. Cocksucker. Sound like Brute Bernard now. So Cody went for the cutter and wiped out referee number 2. when Owens moved out of the way. And then Owens posted Cody and went got a chair and swung at him, but Cody ducked it and hit him with a cutter. And then grabs him for the crossroads and looks down and sees the chair there. And I mean, they even put the gimmicks in the perfect places. And he gives him the crossroads on the chair, boom, and cover. And Charles Robinson is back up by that point. 1, 2, 3.
From the floor. Charles Robinson's on the floor counting the ring.
Well, yes, but he was back up on his feet, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But he saw they were right next to the ropes, and there he saw it. It was in front of him. Boom. Again, the positioning. Everything they did, and they had to wipe out 2 referees, but they didn't botch any of that. Everybody was in the right place. And then when they worked their last spot, the chair ends up right there, and he planted him on it perfect. And then they're right in front of Robinson on the floor where he can just stand up and count, bing, bing, bing. The babyface had a weakness to create doubt, but they did a roller coaster with false finishes, and then back and forth with the referees. Oh, my God, there's a second. Oh, he's down. The first one's back. And the babyface won, but the heel has a bitch. He had an out. So I love this one, too. Before we talk about what happened off the air, what did you think of what happened on the air?
I enjoyed it. Good main event. I enjoyed the commentary with Jesse Ventura there. I enjoyed the look and feel of it. It felt different than Raw and SmackDown, and that's what it needed to do. Very much enjoyed it.
Okay, now...
Good match.
Did they run long on time, or did they mean to do what they did after the show went off the air?
Well, you know they've been lately doing stuff where there are things happening after the pay-per-view, after the event, off air.
Yeah.
They did it with Owens and Cody Rhodes in the parking lot, Owens and Randy Orton. So, I mean, with these specific guys, they've been doing it.
Well, it was tremendous, and we'll find out on Raw, and obviously they're going to show, footage of what happened, etc. But after Saturday night's main event went off the air in some fashion, Owens got back on Cody and ended up giving him a package pile driver, which was fucking perfect. There's not only the WWE's released a clip on, I guess, their social media, but there's a fan cam of it. And it was fucking perfect. And they taped Cody to the backboard and stretchered him out. And then Owens got in a shoving match with Triple H in the aisleway, and they were cussing at each other. But somebody on Twitter had a slow-mo of the pile driver. And I hate, as somebody said, Cornette, what do you think about this? They tweeted it to me. And I hate to ruin the magic and explain why it wasn't dangerous. But it wasn't dangerous, but you couldn't see through it. It was beautiful. It was perfect. So.
Because of his belly. He was able, I mean, I'm not even joking.
Well,
he was able to use his belly to rest Cody's head and shoulders as he took him down.
Well, actually, then, if you're going to spoil it that far, I'll say also his fat ass had a lot to do with it, too. but sometimes you need some cushion. But yeah, so this will continue with Owens and what's going on there, apparently, and I don't mind it. They had a great match, and they've got me into this.
And Orton still has to come back.
Yes, and again, the pile driver. These idiots over on the other channel are killing themselves on a weekly basis and not selling anything, and nothing means anything, and everybody expects them to get up and just do some more of it. And over here, I would have taken that pile driver, and they carted him off on a stretcher, and people are fucking going crazy about it. But one side's playing chess and one side's playing checkers.
And did you hear that, Steen? He'll take the pile driver.
I would have taken that particular one. I might not take the one he'd give me, but I'd take the one he gave Cody now. See, you got to remember whose head stuck between whose legs.
Well, that was Saturday night's main event.
I had my head stuck between Kevin Steen's legs one time.
Oh?
He was milking. He was at the Hammerstein Ballroom, a Ring of Honor show. He was milking, going to give me the package pile driver when somebody was going to stop him in some fashion. But goddamn, at that time, I was 250 pounds, even though this was 10 years ago. But that's when I was about to have physical therapy on my bad hip. And when he bent me over and drew my fucking arms back while my head was down that low, and I hadn't been over that far in a long time, I thought he'd killed me just grabbing me in position. I was like, oh, fuck, he just cracked everything in my goddamn body. But I'm more flexible now. But you know what, Brian? The pile driver can be dangerous.
Yes.
It can be deadly. It can be injurious to your health. And you know what? It can also injure your bank account if you don't have insurance. Well, let's say you go to the hospital from a pile driver and you want to sell the angle. So you get the whole works done, the x-rays, the backboard, the fucking MRIs, the whole 9 yards. Who's going to pay for that shit? The wrestling promoter isn't, I'll have you know. So you're going to have insurance. And this is the time of the year, Brian, for the folks around the world. The United States of America in December gets to pick what insurance they're going to pay for the following year. Only 1 month. You only get 1 month. Then if you don't have it, well, fuck you. So that's why everybody needs to get a hold of Select Quote over at selectquote.com in the month of December, because they will save you money. They will work with licensed insurance agents to tailor a life insurance policy or a health insurance policy or a variety of policies. And they will do it better than anybody else because they're Select Quote. They've been selected to give you a quote. Who selected them, you might ask? Well, you, when you go to selectquote.com. Have you ever worried about getting coverage with a pre-existing health condition? Well, they got carriers that provide policies if you've had high blood pressure, diabetes, heart disease, dick droop, bladder problems, incontinence, whooping belch. But if you don't have major health issues, it's even better. They work with carriers that can get you same-day coverage. No medical examination required. No fingers will be stuck up your ass. Because that's sometimes a very sticky part of the examination.
Again, let's get back to what can be provided for the listeners from Select Quote.
Well, if you go to selectquote.com, a licensed insurance agent, he'll have a driver's license and it'll be good in most of the 50 states. He will call you right away with the right policy for your life and your budget. Select Quote, they shop and you save. So get the right life insurance for you. Is it life? I thought they had all kinds of insurance. They got all kinds of insurance. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/JCE. That's the place to get started. selectquote.com/JCE. It's all about insurance. You could be here today, Brian, and gone tomorrow. And then who will carry on and how will they afford to? You know, it'll probably cost a lot of money by the time you go for a human being to be buried because there will be no room left. See, I'm going to get in the nick of time, and I've already purchased my real estate. But you, Brian, by the time you're gone, they're going to be burying people standing up in shoeboxes in a subway.
I want to be shot into outer space.
Well, we could all hope, but it probably won't happen anytime soon. Selectquote.com/JCE to get the right life insurance for you.
That's right. They're there for you. Select Quote.
Well, Brian, we have done it. We have diddled around and malingered until the ratings for the WWE Saturday night's main event on NBC have come in. At least the overall number is in our hands. We don't have the quarter hours yet, but I'm not disappointed because I didn't have, a dog in the fight. I was just holding its head. But 1,590,000 viewers. That seems low to me for something of this magnitude, of this nature. They were doing more than that on Monday Night Raw on USA. What's happened to the NBC network? Where's Seinfeld when you need him?
Well, again, too, that's about what I said I thought they would do as a number.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Smarty Pants.
Well, the point is, the idea that they were going to pop a huge number, it's on traditional television. That's the other thing. It's like, because of the state of fandom now and the ages of a lot of the fans, if you go backwards and everything's just broadcast, I would love to know what the streaming numbers for any of this was. Because WWE's moving one way, and then all of a sudden, what was once a big deal, prime time, it was 8 o'clock, it wasn't even 11:30, prime time network television on Saturday, and you got your wrestling audience. You didn't get too many people outside of your usual wrestling audience, the people you were promoting the show to.
And it's come to this, that
did they do anything?
The mighty Peacock Network is happy with 1.6 million people in prime time.
Did they do anything on NBC to cross-promote, like on the Today Show or anything? Did they have anything about this?
I don't know. But I would think, even if the kids are streaming stuff, who doesn't have a television in their home? What kind of weirdo from Mars would that be?
A lot of people.
Seriously?
Oh my God, yeah. Maybe a monitor. At best, a monitor.
No wonder the country's in a sad state it's in. Fucking hell. But in other primetime broadcasts, we are told the Heisman Trophy presentation on ESPN averaged 2,251,000 viewers. So ESPN was the, good heaven, and the NBA Cup semifinal game on ABC got 1,890,000. That's pretty sad. That's pretty fucking sad.
There was other competition that you did not list. Again, it's cable, not network TV, but it was on at the same time. AEW Collision.
Okay. Well,
their normal time slot, of course, 8 to 10 p.m. They were being invaded by Saturday night's main event and Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, so that's why Saturday night's main event didn't perform to my expectations, because they were bucking the established show on Saturday night in its normal time slot on cable. What did they do there, Brian?
AEW Collision on TNT, Saturday, December 14th, 8 to 10 p.m. According to WrestleNomics, on average, 246,000 viewers. That's minus 12% from last week, which was 278. It's minus 22% off the trailing 4-week average of 317. Last year, same period of time, it would have done approximately 442,000 viewers. And it's all just dropping and dropping and dropping. And the other thing is, it's interesting how quickly they announced the second Saturday night's main event, isn't it? They didn't give the first one any time to breathe. They're already announcing the second one.
Well, I think they've got a set number they're going to do once a quarter or whatever next year, right?
Well, in this case, it's going to be once a month. It's going to be December and then January.
Well, no, but it's not going to be it's going to be once a month for a 2-month period. But what they're doing is they're doing January, then they're doing the second quarter, then the third quarter, et cetera, next year, right? This deal has come together, and they probably wanted to kick this off 2 weeks before, 3 weeks, whatever it is, before they start on Netflix, because they're all in the same pocket now.
And they're loading that show up too. Oh my God.
Yeah, so they got NBC television network to promote not only, the NBC Universal family is still with fucking USA Network, but also the Netflix and all that other shit. Everybody owns every goddamn thing, don't they? Who owns what now?
That's a big question. I don't know how to answer that.
The point is, they promoted the fuck out of on network television outside their normal cable spaces. They promoted the fuck out of their Netflix shit too. And so I mean, they're going to be on they're going to be beaming in on the fillings in people's teeth by next year. So I don't think that, to answer your question, that they're going to do once a month, or they're trying to, they just, that's the way it worked out. They figured, okay, we'll get a special to kick off this series on NBC. It'll promote the Netflix debut in January. We've got the property on SmackDown on USA on Friday nights. Everybody's happy.
Bringing Jesse Ventura back is a big FU to Vince. They should go all the way. Bring back David Schultz. And apologize to him on air for the way he was treated.
I don't know.
Maybe you could book Stossel. Stossel's not really doing that great career-wise right now.
Fuck Stossel. No, you let him be in a goddamn subway station selling apples with worms in them. But I don't know if the combined forces of Nick Khan, Dana White, Mark Shapiro, and fucking Zbigniew Brzezinski could possibly fucking control David Schultz to put him on any kind of national television. So I think we better let that one lay still.
Well, that was Saturday night's main event. To return, one more Saturday night coming up, but this is your show.